Darby is a drug addict who is in drug rehab. She is currently participating in support group events to share concerns. Now it was her turn to tell her story, but she was not interested in saying anything because an event like this was pointless for her. Shortly afterward, Darby receives a call saying that her mother is being treated at the hospital. She was also asked to inform her sister, Devon, regarding this matter. But unfortunately, according to regulations, Darby is prohibited from using phones. In the evening, Darby begs her friend to lend her a phone. After that, she calls Devon to tell her that their mother is being treated at the hospital. But Devon doesn't want Darby to come to the hospital because her arrival would only add to the problem. Devon's words worry Darby, but she ignores them and decides to escape to the hospital by breaking into the car there. On the way, Darby leaves Devon a voice message saying she is on her way to the hospital. Shortly after that, the map app on the phone suggests Darby take an alternative route due to an accident on the main road. It turns out that Darby's current path was a mountain pass, and there was a blizzard. As a result, she was stuck on the road and forced to pull over the car. After that, she falls asleep in the car. After that, suddenly, a policeman knocks on her car window and wakes Darby from her sleep. Police inform Darby that the road ahead is closed due to bad weather. The police give her two choices: turn around and return to the main road or wait in a rest area not far from their location. Darby prefers to stay for the weather to get better in the rest area because the rotation is too far. Arriving at the rest area, Darby sees a husband and wife named Ed and Sandy, a man sleeping, and a stranger sitting in the corner. After that, she chooses to go to the toilet first, but it turns out that the women's restroom is under repair, so she has to use the men's restroom. After that, she sits in the living room with the others. Then, Ed, who has just entered, tells his wife that he got a signal when he was outside. Hearing this makes Darby rush out and look for a signal as well. That's when she hears something from the van. Out of curiosity, Darby begins approaching and seeing what is in the car. How surprised she is when she sees a girl tied there. She tries to open the car, but the vehicle is locked. Then, she takes a photo of the car's license plate as evidence for the police. After that, Darby promises the girl to save her. Darby thinks one of the people in the rest area is the perpetrator of this kidnapping. Therefore she chooses to be calm and not rash. Darby gets back into her car and tries to call the police. But it's all in vain because there is no signal in the vehicle. Then she returns to the rest area while being careful because she doesn't know who the criminals are who kidnapped the girl in the van. Darby sits with Ed and Sandy, and it is there that she knows the name of the sleeping man, Ash, and the man sitting in the corner, Lars. Ed invites everyone to play cards, but Lars refuses because he is not good at it. But he suggests a card game he knows, and Ed agrees. Finally, they play together. Darby, who looks restless, occasionally looks out of the van and observes the people around her. In between games, Darby asks where they are from, and their discussion develops. Of course, Darby opens the conversation because she wants to analyze their background and guess who might have kidnapped the girl in the van. The card game is over, and Lars loses. Lars gets angry and slams his card. Darby's attention is now on Lars, and she is suspicious of the stranger. After that, Darby goes to the women's restroom to send a message to the police and photo evidence of the car's license plate. But the message is not sent because there is no signal there. After that, Darby takes a cutter and opens the wall patched with boards. Darby gets off the wall and runs to the van. She gets in and sees the girl wearing a bracelet saying she is sick. Just as Darby almost unties the girl, someone comes and gets into the car. It turns out it is Lars. He is the one who kidnapped this girl. Darby hides in the car seat while covering herself with a cloth. In the van, Lars is still grumbling about losing the previous card game. Then he calls the girl the name Jay. Lars sees that the cardboard shutters have come off. Luckily he doesn't realize that Darby is in the car. Darby almost attacks him using her weapon but stops her intention because she sees Lars carrying a gun. Shortly after, Lars gets out of the vehicle. Darby takes advantage of the situation to get to know Jay and promises to free her. But she doesn't want to be rash, and she wants to seek help first. Then, Darby left the van, leaving the cutter there. Sometime later, Lars returns to the car and realizes that someone has infiltrated his car by seeing footprints in the snow. After seeing Jay, who is still there, Lars decides to return to the rest area. Meanwhile, Darby returns to the toilet, which is being repaired. Ash also returns to look for Darby. Darby takes advantage of the situation to talk to Ash. But before she tells Ash, Lars comes to where they are. Instantly Darby kisses Ash as if they were making out. Seeing this makes Lars uncomfortable, and he leaves. Once safe, Darby informs Ash that a girl has been kidnapped in Lars' van. Ash is surprised by Darby's story, and they discuss what they will do next. Ash suggests Darby get out of the rest area to provoke Lars, while he will tell Ed and ambush Lars together. To be more convincing, Ash takes gun nails just in case. Darby carries out the mission as Ash suggested. She exits the rest area through the front door and walks towards the van. Lars, who sees that, is provoked to follow her. Darby gets into the car and removes the duct tape covering Jay's mouth. Then Jay said that there were 2 people who kidnapped her. Hearing this, Darby is shocked to death. She looked out of the car and found Lars and Ash already out of the rest area. They both walk towards the van but do not find Darby's whereabouts. Then Ash returns to the rest area through the front door, and Lars sees Darby entering through the hole in the wall. Ed and Sandy, who have been there all this time, begin to suspect this situation. Ed tells his wife that he is suspicious of Lars. Ed calls Lars and asks where Darby is. Lars said Darby was out looking for a bar. Meanwhile, Jay begins to untie her hands using Darby's left cutter. On the other hand, Ash catches Darby in the toilet, which is being repaired. Ash checks Darby's phone and deletes the pending message Darby has sent to the police. Ash also reads Darby's chat with her sister and learns that Darby is a drug addict who will visit her mother in the hospital. In addition, Ash also knows that Darby's father died by suicide. Ash tells Darby that his goal in kidnapping Jay is for money because he knows Jay's parents are wealthy. Suddenly, Sandy opens the door where Darby and Ash are. Ash immediately pretended to kiss Darby so as not to be suspected and left the place. Ed has just come out of the rest area to check the surroundings. Then he sits in the living room with Lars and Ash. Not long after, Sandy and Darby gather and sit in the living room. At that time, Ed and Sandy do not know the actual situation. Ed starts his usual conversation and asks Darby about her father. But Ash immediately cuts off Ed's conversation and says that Darby's father has died by suicide. It silences everyone, likewise with Lars, who is confused by his friend's words. Instantly the atmosphere is tense again because Darby sees Jay, who has gotten out of the car. Ash and Lars also notice and look outside the rest area. In the first place, Jay will enter the rest area. But instead, she runs into the forest when she sees Ash and Lars in the rest area. Lars decides to leave. Likewise, Darby reasons that she wants to go to the toilet, and Ash follows behind her. Ed became suspicious that something was wrong at this point. In the restroom, Darby attacks Ash but Ash fights and defeats her. Ash almost kills her, but suddenly Lars comes out of the hole in the wall and says Jay is missing. While Ash and Lars are talking, Darby takes the fallen keys to the van that happened during the previous fight. Ash, Lars, and Darby go into the woods to find Jay. During the search, Lars said he fears losing Jay because it would make his boss angry. Hearing that makes Darby think that all of this is human trafficking. Darby tries to escape from them by flopping down. Ash shot her multiple times, but not a single shot hit the target. Ed is sure he hears gunshots from inside the rest area and rushes outside to check on the situation. But when he comes out, he sees Jay lying down. Ed immediately picks up Jay and takes her to the rest area. Darby escapes from the pursuit of Ash and Lars and then meets with Jay, whom Ed has saved. Darby informs them that Ash and Lars are trying to kidnap Jay, and they have guns. Ash shouts from outside the rest area, asking them to hand over Jay. Ed blocks the door with a chair and closes the window blinds. Then he calls that he has a gun when he doesn't. Ash and Lars are scared and desperate to enter the rest area. Ash shouts and says Jay is sick and needs medicine. At the same time, the drug is only owned by Ash. Sandy begins to be affected by Ash's words but not Darby, who says she has taken their van keys. Ed starts to negotiate by asking for medicine in exchange for their van keys so they can leave. Ash, beginning to run out of patience, brings a barrel of oil and plans to burn the rest area. Sandy is getting scared and persuades Ed and Darby to give Jay to them. Ed refuses and asks Darby to hide their van keys behind the rest area. Darby does so and takes some tools as their defensive weapons. Ash starts counting down and is about to burn the rest area. But at the same time, Jay begins to wake up and calls Sandy by the name Lori. As it turns out, Sandy previously worked as a housemaid for Jay's family. Sandy is involved in Ash and Lars' kidnapping of Jay. Sandy shouts that Ed does not have a weapon. She has betrayed her husband, and Darby then sprays Darby's face with pepper. Sandy confesses to Ed that she did all this for money. Ash and Lars come in and point guns at Ed. Then, Sandy injects the drug to heal Jay. Sandy tells Ed that she knows Ash and Lars from the internet, who planned to kidnap Jay and return her to her parents for ransom. But Darby said that Jay would not be returned to her parents but sold to others as child trafficking. Lars says that Jay would be taken to a better place. Ash intends to leave the rest area, but he doesn't have the keys to his van. Sandy tells Ash that Darby hides his car keys. Ed tells Darby not to tell him where the keys are. Hearing this angers Ash, and he shoots Ed to death. Sandy frantically attacks, and pepper sprays Ash but is blocked by Lars. Ash does not hesitate to shoot Sandy. After that, Ash comes to Darby and drags her against the wall. He ruthlessly nails Darby's hand to the wall. Then, Ash and Lars go to the restroom to clean Lars's pepper spray face. On the other hand, Jay took a nail and gave it to Darby to pull out the pin in his hand. But Ash and Lars were already back in the room. Ash, still carrying Darby's phone, informs her that her mother has died. Then Darby's phone rings again, and there is a chat from 911 heading to the rest area. It turns out that the message from Darby had previously been sent to the police. Ash asks Darby where their van keys are and threatens to nail Jay's hand to the floor. Darby gets scared and tells them where their van keys are. Ash asks Lars to look after them while he gets the keys. After Ash leaves, Darby asks Jay to turn off the light and says Lars won't hurt her. Terrified, Jay moves to the light and turns it off. That's when Darby removes the nail in her hand and attacks Lars from behind. Meanwhile, Ash takes his van keys and returns to the room. He sees Darby holding Lars hostage with a gun. Ash, who is carrying a nail gun, points it at Darby. But suddenly, Jay hits Ash's hand so that the nail gunner shoots a nail right into Lars' forehead. Darby then releases Lars and leaves with Jay. Lars is still alive because his nails aren't that deep. But unfortunately for Lars, he slips and makes it stuck in so that he dies instantly. Darby and Jay get into the car to escape. But Ash shoots them with a nail gun from outside, so their car crashes into a pole. Ash returns to the rest area to set the place on fire so that the police can obtain no evidence. Sometime later, the police come and ask Ash to show his hand. Darby, conscious, gets out of the car and shoots Ash. Seeing this, the police shot Darby. Ash is still alive and takes advantage of the moment to grab Darby's gun and fire it at the police. As Ash is about to kill Darby, Darby suddenly stabs the screwdriver she has stored in Ash's neck and kills him on the spot. Then Darby approaches the police for help from the police radio. A few days later, after recovering, Darby returns to rehab. She told her story while looking at the horrific incident's mountain photo. Not long after, the nurse took Darby to meet the person visiting her, who was none other than Devon, Darby's older sister. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to help the channel. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.